Сазерленд Директор Collaboration Superpowers.com, член совета директоров Happy Melly. Под ваши аплодисменты. Лизетт, you're welcome. Я напомню, что если спикер оставляет нам возможности и время, мы обязательно непременно задаем вопросы из общего чата в нашем приложении Reform или даем возможность задать вопросы из зала. Лизетт, you're welcome.
Wow. Thanks, everybody. It's very exciting to be here today. I'm really looking forward to telling you the story about Happy Melly. It's an interesting story. I'm also very excited to be in Russia, in Moscow. I'm going to be spending the whole weekend exploring the city. And I actually was here once before for one night, years ago, but in a totally different way. I was a manager for a rock band, and we came through Moscow on tour for a night. So very different, and a lot of things have changed since then. Mostly I'm on stage now, so that's really fun for me. And change is good, as we are going to be hearing all day, I think, as we just heard. Change brings innovation, and as our devices get smarter and we're able to do business globally more easily, and people are collaborating and doing great things all over the world. Change is good, and in general, change brings innovation, and that's great for business. And sadly, one thing that doesn't seem to change is that many people don't like their jobs. And in fact, there was a study last year that showed that worldwide, 40% of people worldwide are not engaged in the work that they do. That to me is a lot of people that don't like their jobs. That's 40% of our colleagues who are at best doing nothing. And at worst, they're actively contributing to the failure of our business. And in a really fast global economy, that's really a problem for business. There's a quote from it's the state of the American workplace, but I think it applies globally, which is, the most engaged workers come up with most of the innovative ideas, create most of a company's new customers, and have the most entrepreneurial energy. And I think that's true. And really, in short, what it's saying is, happy employees make more money. And I think that's really important. And we've probably all had the experience of what it's like to work on a really great project with a great team where we love what we do and it's kind of just magic. You know, things happen magically somehow. And I like to show this picture because this is a meeting for the Happy Melly team. We meet every week and we use Google Hangouts. And with Google Hangouts, you can wear fun virtual hats and virtual mustaches. And I think this picture really just shows sort of the energy that this team has, and I really like it. But don't get me wrong, it's not about having fun. All the studies show that people want meaning in their work, and we want to be proud of the work that we do, and we want to work with people that we really like, and we want our leaders to be competent and to show appreciation for the work that we do. So I think this is now a good time to actually formally introduce you to Melly. This is Melly Shum, and as you can see, Melly hates her job. And Melly is actually a billboard that's been hanging in the Netherlands for the last 25 years. It's just a billboard on the street. But to us, Melly represents that 40% of the population that don't like their jobs. And there's a growing divide in how work is getting done these days. There's an old style of working with offices and paper, and this is a real office, by the way. It wasn't staged, this is for real. And you know, where we have to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning and we can't leave until 5 o'clock. And there's a new way of doing work, which offers mobility and freedom. And I actually spent several years traveling the world in a van. And during the day, I was working with a global team doing web development. And at night, I was playing Rockstar Tour Manager, traveling around the world. And maybe this is an extreme example, but I think it shows what we can do when we're creative, and when we're determined, and when we're motivated, when we have that entrepreneurial energy. These are all the things that we want in our company. And when people are unhappy at work, and given all the new different kinds of global tools, we can now do something about it. So there's tools like Odesk and Elance, Freelancer, Virtual Staff Finder. I mean, this is just a handful of the many tools that exist that allow us to work online and collaborate from anywhere. And you can see it in the name. I mean, Odesk, love the way you work, and Elance, work differently. All of these tools, they're kind of calling us, they're beckoning us, please come join the world of freedom and the world of working. And those of us who really want to have meaning in our work, and we want to love the work that we do, you can't help but notice this. Now, when I ask people to draw the typical organizational chart, they always draw the hierarchy. This is the typical hierarchy. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not here to say that the hierarchy is bad. Clearly, in our businesses, the hierarchy is good. We've had a lot of success with it. And it allows information to travel up and down quickly, and it allows us to categorize things very easily. But I think actually, when we look at how businesses actually run, it's actually a network of people within that hierarchy. And you've got groups of people working over here that know each other and like working together, so they're going to keep doing that. You know, and Sue and Bob, they've known each other since childhood, so they're going to just talk to each other and bypass all the ranks in the hierarchy. So in actuality, our businesses aren't really working as hierarchies. And given the new way of working and this global economy and how easy it is for all of us to sort of network with each other, this is what Happy Melly has started to experiment with. Instead of a hierarchy where we build a company with employees, we're choosing to build a company as a network with entrepreneurs. And we have legal entities now that have popped up all over the world. These are legal entities offering various services. And the purpose at Happy Melly is to help people be happy in the work that they do. So all of these companies all over the world are helping people in the work that they do. One of those companies is called Management 3.0. It's run by Jürgen Appelow. He's pretty well known in the world. He wrote a book called Management 3.0 and another one just recently, and he teaches people about modern management practices. And the slogan is, management is too important to leave to the managers. Everybody should be a manager. And so he's got facilitators and gives workshops all over the world. Another company is called Happy Melly Express. They publish books about happiness experiments at work. They published Jürgen Appelow's most recent book, Workout, and they just published Jason Little's Lean Change Management. And there's another one coming out from a man in Brazil called Learning 3.0, and Happy Melly Express publishes books. I run a company called Collaboration Superpowers, and we teach people how to work remotely. So we have businesses and teams, and we teach them through workshops and a podcast and all kinds of different things. How do we work online together? What is it that we need? And all of us are trying to globalize our businesses in one way or another. And all of us, if we are alone, would be struggling with that globalization because there's different ways of doing business in different countries. There's finances, there's legal advice, all kinds of things that we know. Now, alone, it would be difficult. But together as a network, we're pooling our resources and helping each other. So Jürgen has a huge network of people that he's built up, all interested in management and leadership and change all over the world. So we have a huge network of people. Other people can offer legal advice. Collaboration Superpowers, for example, I've developed a workshop for people that it's a one-day workshop, and I can now test it in almost all the countries. It's currently being tested in Stockholm and in London and in Brussels and soon Brazil, something that would be very difficult for me to do on my own. So when people join the Happy Melly network, everybody contributes something to the network. I, for instance, help people set up their online meetings and help facilitate. Other people offer legal advice. Some people offer financial services. But all of us together offer something, and we get in return all kinds of help with globalizing our business. Happy Melly is not the only one who is experimenting with this new networked kind of business. This is a company out of the Netherlands. They're called Starter Squad. And they actually started as a group of people that were brought together by a client. They didn't know each other, and they started working together online. And eventually, the client work ended, and they loved working together so much that they decided that they're going to form their own company. So essentially, they got together and said, our only problem is that we don't have a client, and maybe we can solve that. So it's a group of entrepreneurs who got together, started their own company. Another company called Cocoon Projects out of Italy. They call themselves a liquid organization because they want to be able to shrink and expand according to the work that's come out. And it started, or one of the ways that it started was because their interview process was failing. So they were doing the standard candidates come in and talk once, and then they come back for a second interview, and then a third interview, and they were still finding that they're not finding the right people. So what they did is they took all of their tasks that they could, and they opened it up to anybody. So if you want to go and work for Cocoon Projects, you can. You can start today. You can start by picking up one of the tasks in the general task pool, and some of them are for money, and some of them are for reputation, but anybody can start, and that gives the employee and the employer sort of a way to test each other out and see if you like it. One of the more popular examples is Spotify, and Spotify calls themselves a tribal organization. And they've broken their whole organization down into squads, or tribes, actually I should say, and within that tribe are squads, and each squad is 5 to 8 people. And the interesting thing about Spotify, and something that really set something off for me, was they've organized their whole organization to give their employees as much autonomy as possible. So each squad is given a group of tasks, but they can decide themselves how they want to accomplish those tasks. And I think that becomes one of the key ingredients of this new networked organization, is that we give people autonomy. And we know from Daniel Pink's book that autonomy leads to motivation, and motivation is very tied with engagement. So autonomy seems to be one of the key things here. And we see it also in the Happy Melly network. And how do we do that? And what we do is we have a constitution that guides all of our principles. So much like a country would have a constitution, it sort of outlines the basic principles of how we operate, and we have a CEO that can be voted out at any time. So he is accountable to the stakeholders every day, because we can decide at any time that we want to vote him out and choose somebody else to run the company. And each company within our network has the autonomy to operate as they want, as long as we follow the guiding principles in the Constitution, which we are all helping to write. So as you can see, there is this networked theme, whether you call it a liquid organization or a tribal organization. It's this network of entrepreneurs that we're experimenting with. And you can see that the hierarchy isn't gone. We still need a hierarchy. When things are working, we want to be able to repeat them. But we also want to be able to experiment on the fringes and see what else is working. That's innovation. And I think that's one of the key things with the Happy Melly Network, is our love for experimentation. I like to show this. This is the celebration grid by Jürgen, and why experimentation is really important. You see on this side here that the things that we know that are working and we do them right, we want to do them over and over again. That's good. But we don't really learn very much when we're doing this. So we're doing the right things, we're doing them over and over, and we don't really learn. And then you have the other side where we just make dumb mistakes. You know, you put the glass of water next to your computer and you knock it over, and it's just, you know you're not supposed to do it. It's a dumb mistake. You know, you screwed up, and where's your brain? We're not learning very much here. And where we want to be is in the middle, where we're doing all kinds of experiments. 50% of the time we're succeeding, 50% of the time we're failing, but we're learning a lot. And that's what we're doing at Happy Melly, and we publish the results of all of our experiments. And I want to tell you about some of these experiments, because I think they're really interesting for business. The first one is called merit money. Now, this is a way for teams to give feedback for each other. And with merit money, it's not about money. We don't actually use money. You can use jelly beans, which is this example, or points or stars. At Happy Melly, we use hugs. And every month, every team member is given 100 hugs. And the only rule is you're not allowed to keep those hugs for yourself. You have to give them out to other team members, and you have to say why you did it. And everybody can see why you did it. So for instance, you know, last month, Sergey really helped me out, and I can give Sergey all of my hugs if I want. Or maybe I want to distribute them equally amongst all the team members. And it's been an interesting process. I started out hating the merit money system. I hated it in the beginning. I don't like hugs, so I didn't like the hugs thing, and I didn't like the merit money, because I thought, how am I supposed to know how good Sergey is at coding? I have no idea if his code is good or not. When I look at it, it looks like Greek to me. So I have no idea how his coding skills are, but that's not what I'm judging Sergey on. What I'm judging Sergey on is, how is he as a team member? Is he communicating? Is he generous? Is he great to work with? That's the kind of thing. And so when you have this from all of your team members, you get this really interesting, well-rounded, 360-degree feedback that's not coming just once a year from a manager. It's coming from everybody that you work with. And it tends to be very valuable. So I started out hating it, and now I'm a big fan. Another experiment that we've been working on is called the salary formula. Now, I know that when I started my career, I was a horrible negotiator for myself. I just negotiated horribly. I had really low salaries in the beginning, and I think I'm not alone in that. And I think there's a lot of people who just aren't really great negotiators. And so with a salary formula, we actually have a formula for how salaries are calculated across the company, and they're transparent. We all know what each other makes. We all know. And what's interesting about this is Buffer also did this experiment. I think it was last year or maybe 2 years ago. Buffer published the salaries of everybody that works there, and the month following this publication, they had an increase of applicants in 230%. So clearly there's something attractive here, because I know when I started and I found out that I was making much less than people I was working with, because of course it's a network, people talk and we become friends and these things come up at the bar over beers. But when I found out how much less I was making, it was very demotivating, and it was because I was a bad negotiator. So at Happy Melly, we think that with winning the hearts, it's a combination of things, of course. We believe that we have to give people more autonomy, and we have to experiment a lot more, and that's what we're doing. So we're creating instead of a hierarchy of employees, we're creating a network of entrepreneurs. And we're not sure if it's going to work or not. So far, it seems to be working, but it's an experiment. It's just something that we're testing out because we think, well, we have the opportunity now to work with this new networked organization. Let's try it out and see what happens. And of course, we're experimenting all the time. It's in our core value of the company, doing all kinds of experiments like this. And we're publishing those experiments through Happy Melly Express, through our blog, through conversations like this with people. And I invite you to join us. And there's many different ways to do that. And the question really is what can you do to make your company a better place to work? Thank you.